June 1942. The Eastern Front. Somewhere in the darkness, a German soldier lies in his foxhole. He's trying to sleep. He can't. None of them can. Because they know. They all know. And then it starts. That sound. A whistle. Faint at first, like wind through fabric. Getting closer. His hands shake. His breath catches. The searchlights sweep the sky, desperate, frantic. But they see nothing. No engine noise. No warning. Just that whistle cutting through the darkness. And then, boom. Explosions tear through their positions. When the smoke clears, when they finally spot the attackers, what they see shakes them to their core. Tiny planes, wooden, ancient, flying so low they can see the pilots' faces in the moonlight. And every single pilot is a woman. The Germans gave them a name. Nachthexen. The Night Witches. This is their story. Young women, some barely out of their teens. They flew 23,000 combat missions in planes that shouldn't have survived a single night. No parachutes, no radios, no defenses. Just courage. Welcome to Archive of Witnesses. Every witness deserves to be remembered.
To understand how the Night Witches came to be, we need to go back to June 22nd, 1941. Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history. 3 million German troops crash across the Soviet border. Stalin's armies are caught completely off guard. In the first weeks, the Luftwaffe destroys over 4,000 Soviet aircraft, most of them on the ground. The Soviet Union is bleeding. Cities fall like dominoes. Millions of soldiers surrender or die. The Nazi war machine seems unstoppable. Stalin needs every able body, every weapon, every pilot. But there's a problem. Soviet women have been flying since the 1920s. Some are among the best pilots in the world. Yet the military won't let them anywhere near combat. War is men's work, the generals say. Women belong in factories and hospitals. But one woman refuses to accept that answer. Her name is Marina Roskova, and she's about to change everything.
Then, they see their aircraft. Polycarpov PO2. Silence falls over the hangar. These aren't modern bombers. They're not even military aircraft. The PO2 is a crop duster, a training biplane designed in 1928 for agricultural work. It has an open cockpit, a wooden frame covered in canvas, a maximum speed of 94 miles per hour. Most of the male bomber crews fly the P2 or the IL-4, fast, modern aircraft with armor, machine guns, and crews of 3 or 4. The women get this. "It's a coffin with wings," one pilot mutters. She's not wrong. The PO2 is so light that a strong wind can flip it over. It has no radio, so pilots can't communicate with each other or their base. No parachutes. The plane flies too low for them to be useful. No defensive weapons, just bombs strapped under the wings. Worst of all, no armor. A single bullet can bring it down. The German fighters, the Messerschmitt Bf-109s, fly 3 times faster. They have cannons, armor, everything the PO2 doesn't. On paper, the Night Witches are being sent to their deaths. But here's what the generals didn't understand. The PO2's weaknesses could be turned into strengths in the hands of brave enough pilots.
The training is brutal. The male instructors don't go easy on them. If anything, they push harder, waiting for the women to quit. They don't. Navigation by moonlight and stars. Emergency repairs in freezing conditions, flying in formations so tight that their wingtips nearly touch in the darkness. They learn to fly the PO2 to its absolute limits. And they learn the tactic that will make them legendary, the glide. Here's how it works. The PO2's engine is deafeningly loud. In the silence of night, German soldiers can hear it from miles away. So, the Night Witches develop a technique. They fly to altitude, then cut their engine completely while still miles from the target. The plane glides silently through the darkness, carried by momentum and wind. The only sound is the whistle of wind through the canvas wings and wooden struts, like a witch's broom cutting through the night sky. By the time the Germans hear that whistle, it's too late. The bombs are already falling. The pilot restarts the engine, if it restarts, and climbs back into the darkness before the anti-aircraft guns can find them. It's brilliant, it's terrifying, and it requires absolute precision. One mistake, one miscalculation, and they fall from the sky. But they practice, over and over, until they can glide blind through the darkest night and hit a target the size of a barn. By May 1942, they're ready. The Night Witches are going to war.
June 8, 1942. The 588's first combat mission. The target? German positions near the front lines. The pilots are terrified, though none will admit it. Nadezhda Popova, one of the youngest pilots, later remembers, "My hands shook so badly I could barely grip the controls, but once we took off, there was no time for fear, only flying." They take off in waves. The Po-2 is so slow and small that they have to fly multiple sorties each night to deliver enough bombs to matter. Some crews will fly 8, 10, sometimes 15 missions in a single night. Land, reload, take off again. Land, reload, take off. Over and over until dawn breaks. That first night, the German anti-aircraft fire is intense. Tracer rounds light up the sky like deadly fireworks. Searchlights sweep desperately. The sound of explosions fills the air. But the Night Witches hold formation. They cut their engines, glide in, release their bombs, and when the explosions bloom across the German positions, they restart their engines and disappear back into the darkness. When they land at dawn, everyone is accounted for. Commander Bershenskaya addresses them. "The Germans now know we exist. Tomorrow will be harder, and the day after that, harder still. But we've proven what women can do. We've proven we belong in this war." The Night Witches have drawn first blood, and they're just getting started. But legends are written in blood, and the Night Witches paid dearly. October 1st, 1942, Yevdokia Nosal and Lyuba Gubernatorova take off for a routine mission. They never return. They're the first Night Witches killed in action. They won't be the last. The truth is, the PO2 is a death trap. Any hit is usually fatal. Engine failure at low altitude means no time to recover. And the wooden frame burns instantly if hit by incendiary rounds. Some nights, pilots would land to find their aircraft riddled with bullet holes they never felt. Nadezhda Popova's plane was once hit by a searchlight. The German fighters descended on her like wolves. Machine gun fire tore through her canvas wings. Her navigator, Katya, was wounded. Nadezhda put the plane into a dive so steep the wings groaned like they would tear off.
She skimmed the treetops at full throttle, the Germans right behind her. Only the darkness saved her. When she landed, the mechanics counted 42 bullet holes. "How did you survive?" someone asked. She just shook her head. "I don't know." But not everyone was so lucky. By the end of the war, 32 night witches would never come home. 32 women who climbed into those fragile wooden planes knowing each flight might be their last. And yet, every single night they flew. Then came the Russian winter. If you think flying an open cockpit biplane in summer is hard, try doing it at 40 degrees below zero. The pilots wear every piece of clothing they can fit under their flight suits, multiple layers, scarves wrapped around their faces, gloves so thick they can barely grip the controls. It's not enough. Frostbite becomes as dangerous as German bullets. Pilots land with their hands frozen to the controls. Their faces are black with frostbite. Some lose fingers, toes, ears. The canvas wings ice over, making the plane even slower, even harder to control. The bombs sometimes freeze to the racks and won't release. But the missions continue, because the Germans don't stop in winter, and neither do the night witches. Rufina Gasheva and Natalia Mechlin fly together through the entire winter of 1942-43. They become inseparable, covering each other's backs, reading each other's thoughts in the darkness. On one mission, their plane is caught by searchlights. 2 German fighters close in. Rufina throws the Po-2 into maneuvers that should rip the wings off. She dives, banks hard. The German fighters, traveling 3 times faster, overshoot. They survive the night, but it's close, too close. That's when Natalia turns to her and says what they're both thinking. "We're living on borrowed time." Rufina nods. "Then let's make it count." By 1943, the war is turning. The Germans are pushed back from Stalingrad. The Red Army goes on the offensive. And the night witches follow the front lines west. They fly over Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, eventually all the way to Germany itself. With each mile, the missions get more dangerous. The Germans are desperate now, throwing everything they have at Soviet bombers. But the night witches have become masters of their craft. They know every trick, every shadow to hide in, every vulnerable moment in the German defenses. They develop new tactics constantly. Sometimes they send a single plane ahead as a decoy. When all the searchlights and guns focus on it, the rest of the squadron slips through in darkness. Other times they come from different directions simultaneously, overwhelming the defenses. The male pilots start to respect them, quietly at first, then openly. "They have more courage than any of us," one fighter pilot admits. "They fly planes we wouldn't touch, and they do it better than we could ever imagine." The night witches are no longer an experiment. They're an essential weapon. By the end of 1943, they've flown over 10,000 combat missions, and they are nowhere near done. When the war ends, the night witches expect to be celebrated. They aren't. Stalin decides the all-female regiments should be disbanded immediately. The women are sent home. Some try to continue flying in civilian aviation. They're told there are no positions available. Some try to join the new Soviet Air Force. They're rejected. "War is over," the officials say. "Women aren't needed anymore." The same military that needed them desperately just months ago now has no place for them. Nadezhda Popova becomes a flight instructor. Irina Sebrova fades into obscurity. Rufina Gaseva is forgotten. For decades, their story is buried. Even in the Soviet Union, few people know the night witches existed. It's only decades later, as the veterans grow old, that historians begin to uncover the truth. Interviews are conducted, diaries are published, the story slowly emerges, and the world finally learns what these women accomplished. In 2013, Russia issued a postage stamp commemorating the Night Witches. In recent years, books and documentaries have told their story. But for most of their lives, the Night Witches lived as ghosts, their incredible achievements known only to those who lived them. Today, historians recognize the 588th Night Bomber Regiment as one of the most effective light bomber units of World War II. 23,672 combat missions, over 3,000 tons of bombs dropped, countless German positions destroyed, supply lines cut, soldiers killed, all accomplished by women in wooden planes. Their tactics, silent gliding attacks, multiple sorties per night, are still studied in military academies. Their courage is undeniable. Think about what they faced every single night. They climbed into planes that could be destroyed by a single bullet. They flew through darkness and anti-aircraft fire. They faced fighters 3 times faster and infinitely better armed. They had every reason to be terrified. And yet, they flew. Again and again and again. Because their country needed them. Because their sisters flew beside them. Because they refused to accept that women couldn't fight. Nadezhda Popova, who survived 852 missions, lived until 2013. In her final interview, she was asked, "Were you afraid?" She smiled. "Every single time I took off," she said. "But we learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is flying anyway." 32 Night Witches never came home, but their story will live forever. Because we remember. We bear witness. The Night Witches proved something the world didn't want to believe in 1941. That courage has no gender. That women could fight and fly and sacrifice just as fiercely as any man. They flew 23,672 missions in wooden planes that were never meant for war. They terrified an army that had conquered most of Europe. They were daughters, sisters, friends, many barely out of their teens. And they changed history. This is why Archive of Witnesses exists. To preserve these stories, to honor these voices, to ensure that heroes like the Night Witches are never forgotten again. Every witness deserves to be remembered. If this story moved you, subscribe to our channel. We bring you untold stories from World War II, Cold War espionage, and ancient warriors. The accounts that history books overlook. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. And in the comments, tell us, what other untold stories from history should we cover next? Share this video. Let others discover the Night Witches. Because their story, their sacrifice, deserves to be known. Until next time, remember, history is written by those brave enough to live it. This is Archive of Witnesses.